Uh, Position preference, that's a little bit outside of our scope of what we can talk about today and talk about simply. So let's skip that. If you want to learn more about it on your own, then you can definitely investigate it. Ad serving, we're going to talk more about this as time goes on in one of the later days, but I'm going to recommend today that you change this to rotate and say show my ads evenly instead of show the better performing ads more often. We'll get into the details of why on that later, but I definitely recommend rotate at least at the beginning. Okay, networks. This is perhaps the most important part of today that we have to talk about. So what this is you can control, most people think when they're advertising on Google Adwords that the only place their ad is going to show up is on the Google. When somebody goes to google.com, types in a search, and then the results page comes up, you think that's the only place that you're advertising. But surprise, unless you change these defaults, that is not the only place that you're going to advertise. Some of the other options are the search network, which is Google's list of different partners that they will show ads on their websites. So, like if AOL, for instance, your ads will appear on AOL.com, on Ask.com, some of those other places. Search network in general, I recommend keeping it on at the beginning. It's okay to use the search network. The content network, however, is a totally different story. Content network for beginners, I definitely recommend you turn this off. What the content network is let's say your teenager has a blog and they decide that that you don't pay them enough in allowance and they want to make a little bit of extra money. What they can do is join up with a program that Google runs called AdSense, and they can display advertisements on their blog, and if people click on those ads, then they get paid a little bit, maybe 5 cents, 10 cents, maybe more when people click on the ad. Unless you disable the content network, your ads are going to show up on your teenagers' blogs, which, there are a lot better sites than that use this kind of advertising. But in general, for the beginner to AdWords, until you really know what you're doing, don't use the content network because it's definitely a whole different challenge, and you need more experience before you go charging into that. And you can blow through a lot of money, sending, useless people that are never going to buy your product or service. Those are going to go to your site, and you're going to pay good money for them if you're advertising on content network. So, again, to summarize, just don't do it. Okay. Target audience. Again, I'm going to assume that most people we're talking about here, it's going to be English. If you want to change them to something else, of course you can. But we're just going to assume that English is your target. Finally, you can target a particular location if you want, which is a really nice feature to have. So let me give you an example of how to do that. Say again, I'm a health insurance agent in St. Louis. I don't want to sell to the entire U.S. I don't want to drive to Albuquerque, New Mexico to sell some guy health insurance. St. Louis is my target market. So right now I've got it set up where my ad is going to appear to anybody in the entire U.S. That's an important point to note, actually. You may not know this, but when somebody goes to Google and types in a search, Google can tell, not down to the exact centimeter, but they can tell that the person searching for that is in San Diego or is in New York or Chicago, they can tell where you live, which is good news for you, the advertiser, because that means that you can say, okay, Google, I only want you to show my ads to when somebody in St. Louis searches on this search phrase, or Chicago, New York, San Diego, whatever the case may be, which is great because you don't want some guy in California clicking on your health insurance website when you can never help him. So this location targeting is a great thing to do. So how I would do this, for instance, is let's see. Actually, there's a number of different ways you can do it. I can say, search the world for location, St. Louis. So I'm going to say, yes, I want to advertise in St. Louis metro area and in St. Louis City. Actually, metro contains city. Okay. So you can see below here that that is now my selected location, and if I click finish, that's going to be my location target. Now, even cooler is you can get even more detailed in what you want. So let's unclick that. Right now I've got no selections. Here's what you can do. Let's say you as that health insurance agent, generally you know that your target business, your target market is within a 15-mile radius of your office address. You can tell Google, okay, I only want you to display ads to people who live within that 15-mile radius of my address. So, watch this. Let's say your address is 1000 South Grand, St. Louis, Missouri, and I only want you to, well, first of all, let's view that on the map. Okay, so it's going to, right now it defaults to 20 miles around that address. I can change it down to 15. Okay, so that shows me my radius, and then if I click add, it's going to add it down below here. I click finish, and now my ad is only going to show up to people who live within 15 miles around my office address. And this is not an exact science because, again, Google can't tell down to the foot where somebody lives, but it's it's the best technology that they've got out there right now. So, and it's fairly reliable. So, then if I simply click Save Changes, that is going to save all the changes that I just made, unless Google gives me a nice error message like that, which it does from time to time. Thankfully, I didn't do anything that crazy, and actually, that's just a good illustration of something that you hear often with computers: save your work. Don't trust them not to lose power or get a blue screen of death or do something crazy to you. Definitely save your work, and the same thing applies here on Google. But anyway, that's been a pretty in-depth conversation about these campaign settings. Definitely spend some time tweaking these, not only for your first campaign that we're going to be building here throughout the next couple days, but for any campaign in the future. If whenever you build a new campaign, Google puts these back to the default. So it's going to put it back to having the content network on and having your target location be the entire U.S., etc., etc. So you definitely want to edit your campaign settings. That's an important part of making sure you don't blow through a bunch of money needlessly on Google AdWords. So that is definitely enough for today. A lot of information to chew on. I will see you back here for day number 4 as we continue to build your first ad on Google AdWords. Again, my name is Matt with Internet Profit Consultants, and thanks a lot for listening.